This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, hi there. Thanks so much for tuning in. A lot to get to this week, but first, the official introductions. I am Ray. He is Kenny. And this here, our very good friend, the show lineup, Mr. B.
All right, let's do this. Coming up, he admits he has had a hard time sitting still for more than 5 minutes, but SONNY PERDUE did just that for our interview. The former secretary discussing everything from his future plans to just how much politics were involved in making those tough decisions in Washington, D.C. They currently serve in the KEMP administration, but for Blake and Alan Poole, their first love is tending to the farm. How this father and son duo balance political life with family and farm life.
Plus, control burns. Nothing new here in Georgia, but this one was truly unique. What all it took to pull it off and why those involved say it needed to be done. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor.
Running a successful farming operation while at the same time balancing family life takes plenty of hard work and perseverance. That's especially the case for Blake Poole, who finds time to care for his cattle while also serving as a field rep for Governor Brian Kemp. Damon Jones takes a look at his family-run business and tells you why it's truly a labor of love.
Like father, like son. Handed down from generation to generation is a passion for agriculture that has led to this cattle operation in Haralson County. It's a farm that has been in the Poole family for quite some time and has seen its fair share of changes.
I grew up on the farm back in 1960, and we've had it since 1960. So it's actually a third generation farm. I mean, we went from row crop to raising nothing but cattle. When I was a youngster growing up, we had plenty of corns, and these fields were just loaded with corn and vegetables.
With both Alan and Blake having full-time jobs within the government, it takes a great deal of teamwork and cooperation in order to keep this operation running efficiently.
I tell you what, it's pretty stressful. My dad and uncle normally run it for me, and so I'm gone all the time. And so my dad's a retired state trooper. Uncle is also, so a lot of times when I'm gone, my dad runs it, uncle runs it, and so they're a real big help on the farm.
That type of collaboration is what truly makes this a family farm. In fact, just having their names attached to this operation provides a great sense of accomplishment as well as an example for others to follow.
I take a lot of pride in it because it's generation after generation. And so I think the best thing for family farmers now, we're about 3 or 4 generations removed from family ag. So I think getting back involved in your family farm, that's what it's all about. And a lot of people, we've got to get outside the box and get back into farming. Know where your food comes from, know how it's grown, educate yourself on where it's from.
While it does take up most of their free time tending to the herd, it's a lifestyle neither would have any other way.
I enjoy riding my tractor where I can just sit up there and I can, I guess, bush hog or just be out and alone so that you can think.
Just coming out here, de-stressing, and see my cows and being a steward of the land, doing what's right. And it's been a steward and seeing these cows grow and seeing what they do. What you put in, that's what you put out. And I love it.
It's the kind of excitement for agriculture the Pooles would like to pass on to future generations as they both see it as a very prosperous career.
Cattle ranching is a profitable business. As you can see, we've got a number of herd behind me. We run about 30 head per year, and we normally sell off about 2 droves of calves a year.
I think for young farmers, if you take that chance, be bold and courageous, you can do it. You gotta take that leap of faith, and if you do it, it's gonna be fine.
Reporting from Haralson County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Well, from the Pooles to the Henry County Get Out and Grow Initiative. This is a unique partnership between Henry County Farm Bureau, Clayton County Farm Bureau, Henry County Extension, as well as local entrepreneur Russell Perry, creator of Perry's Lazy Crazy Garden System. What is that, you ask? Well, it's a biodegradable garden bed that can be installed and planted in less than 30 minutes. With the help of the Henry County Master Gardeners, the goal this spring is to install 40 of these beds throughout the community, all in an effort to promote home vegetable and pollinator gardens.
Everything is just falling into place right now, and I'm really impressed with the people who enjoy doing this. And every child can have a garden, grandparents can have a garden, people can work in a subdivision, can have a garden, and without any expense for equipment and hard work.
It's great because we've got a lot of volunteer groups that want to do something, but you can be kind of, what do we do? What do we do? And this is a kind of a package deal, self-explanatory. They give you directions, and I think it'll work, and it's a very economical substitute for raised beds.
Meantime, come March 14th, the U.S. will spring forward for daylight saving time. And if legislation in the Georgia General Assembly makes its way to the governor's desk, it could potentially be the last switch ever for the state. Something many across Georgia, especially those in ag and dairy, would celebrate. John Holcomb now with reaction from McDuffie County.
First used in 1918, but not made into law until 1966, daylight saving time has been around for decades. However, even after all these years, switching back and forth is something Americans still aren't fond of, and those in agriculture, especially those in the dairy industry, are no exception. One of those is Mark Rogers, who says that switching back and forth is a logistical mess.
As a dairyman, I would just as soon it stay daylight savings time all 12 months. It would be a lot easier. My cows don't have a wristwatch. They don't know the time change. And so we got to kind of stay with the cows, so it affects my staff pretty dramatically. Under daylight savings time, we are kind of reprogramming cows' thinking in that we'll have to start milking them a little bit earlier if we were milking in a conventional parlor. And we'd feed them a little bit less that day, or if the time's changing the other direction, we would know we needed to feed another 500,000 or however many pounds of feed, because they would run out because there's another hour in that day, and we've got to remember to do that.
One other big issue they have is with their computer systems. Hillcrest is a fully robotic dairy ran by computers, and when the time changes, it causes them problems.
Robots, of course, are run by computers, and computers do not understand that you took an hour off every 6 months or added an hour on, so that's difficult, and we end up having to call product support actually in Sweden, have people log on and redo stuff, and it puts a lot of blips in the systems. It even tells us that cows aren't moving as much that day. Well, there was an hour went away.
Thankfully for Rogers and producers here in the state, there's a possible solution in the Georgia State Legislature, and that comes in the form of House Bill 44. Legislation sponsored by Representative Cantrell that will keep the state on daylight saving time all year.
People universally despise time change, especially springing forward. So I realized I was onto something, and in fact, my constituents care about this. And we pass a lot of legislation down here that affects a lot of people, but time change affects everybody. Everybody is affected by it, and probably 90%, maybe more, can't stand the current system of springing forward and falling back.
There is one problem, though. Due to federal law, states aren't allowed to stay on daylight saving time year-round. So if passed and signed by the governor, the bill will only go into effect if Congress authorizes states to do so. But there is an upside.
Now, the beauty of it is that most of the states around us have already passed legislation like this. Florida, South Carolina, Louisiana, Arkansas. So if and when this occurs, Georgia won't be acting by ourselves. It'll be basically the entire Southeast will move at the same time to daylight saving time permanently. The current system has us in daylight saving time just a few days short of 8 months out of the year. So the easier adjustment for Georgians would be to go to daylight saving instead of standard time.
Reporting in McDuffie County for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
When we come back, returning home to Georgia, our one-on-one with former Secretary of Ag Sonny Perdue. What he said about serving under President Trump, and might we see his return to public service? That's next.
Professor Timothy Coulong obtained all three of his degrees, his bachelor's, master's, and doctorate, from the University of Georgia Department of Horticulture. After several years serving as the Vegetable Extension Specialist at the University of Kentucky, He was hired at the UGA Tifton campus to perform vegetable research and outreach. After 5 years in Tifton, Coulong returned to the Athens campus to oversee teaching, extension, and research for organic vegetable production. While he primarily conducts field research, he has worked on a broad variety of topics, from germplasm evaluation to food safety in vegetables. In spring 2019, Coulong began to manage research and extension outreach for industrial hemp production in Georgia. He currently teaches courses on experiential learning in organic agriculture and serves as the UGA coordinator for the Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program, supported by the USDA.
Well, it's not every day you get to sit down and chat with a former state senator, two-term governor, as well as a Secretary of Ag under President Trump. So when the Monitor was afforded that opportunity with Sonny Perdue in his home, no less, we jumped at the chance. Safe to say, while he's currently enjoying some much-needed family time, Perdue's contributions to public service are far from over.
Secretary Perdue, good to be with you today. Since you left Washington, you're back here in Georgia. Tell everybody what you're up to.
Well, I'm breathing fresh air here in Bon Air, Georgia, and back with our family where I grew up. So we're delighted to be here. Certainly saddened for the reason that we're here prematurely, but nonetheless, glad to be back at home, glad to be back in Georgia, glad to be around family.
4 years in the Trump administration, you look back, you visited many people, many places across the country. When you look back on that time, what would you say is the highlight of your time as Secretary of USDA?
Kenny, what I found was, having grown up in Georgia, we thought that, we might have been special here, but the constituency that the president asked me to serve, farmers, ranchers, producers, foresters, all across this country, I came to realize are some of the best people on earth. Whether you go north, south, east, or west, the crops may be different, the accents may be different, and but really much the culture is so much the same, and the heart is so much the same. People who love the land, people who have an affinity for risk-taking, and get up every day with how they can do better. And I think really that's what President Trump saw in farmers and ranchers, demonstrating a real affection and affinity for them all over the country.
On that note, did you see politics in agriculture, or was there a lot of politics in agriculture as you served?
Well, not in Washington, D.C., never politics. But certainly, yes, there were politics there. But mostly, when I got to USDA, you may have remembered people talking about the deep state in these agencies. We didn't find that. We found over 100,000 people who just wanted to do good for agriculture, serve their customers and their constituents, being the farmers and ranchers. So we probably had the least political interference of any agency in the federal government that way. We just had good policies there that would enable there. I'm not one of these that think government creates jobs. We don't grow crops, but you provide a fertile environment by which hardworking farmers and ranchers can do exactly what they love to do.
Biggest challenge facing farmers and ranchers across the country right now, what would you say that is?
Well, now is a little bit different than when we arrived. We were at a low point really for financial revenue and income there. It was really tough there. Revenue had slided on farms down from a peak of about 2013 down to the lowest level in 2016. Not many people know this, but they were talking about trade wars, but actually farm income increased every year, 17, 18, 19, and 20, and under the Trump administration. And we're proud of that because certainly some of those were transfer payments where the President and Congress were very generous to agriculture, understanding its importance. But the fact is we left what was called the trade wars actually turned out to be the President calling China's hand on that. And in 2020, the year that we finished, it was the highest record purchase from China of U.S. agricultural products. And we see prices back at levels that we had not seen since 2012 and 2013. So those are things that we're proud of. I'm not sure that story has been told in that way. We hear other things, but farming is tough. It's always been tough, and it's challenging and sometimes heartbreaking, but there's nothing more than the thrill of a good crop at a fair price.
businessman, state senator, governor, secretary of agriculture. What's next for Sonny Perdue? People have got to be asking you to go here or do this. What is next?
Well, we're in talks with a lot of people, but my grandchildren, our 14 grandchildren, know me as Big Buddy and Nana. Mary is Nana. And so I think it's probably some Big Buddy time here to pay attention. You know, 8 years out of their lives as governor, 4 years out of their lives as Secretary of Agriculture. That's a long time out of the life of a young person. So we've always been close to family. We have 8 grandchildren close around us here in Houston County, but all 14 in Georgia. So we hope to spend more time with family, but obviously I don't do a very good job sitting on the porch and rocking, so I'm sure there'll be other things there. We're in talks with people about how I can help them build businesses that are really impactful in the world and in the globe about feeding people. Our motto at USDA was to do right and feed everyone, which those are 5 words, but they're very profound. And we tried to do that in that way. And one of the most fulfilling things at USDA was to watch a cultural change of really a motto of becoming the most efficient, effective, most customer-focused agency while doing right and feeding everyone.
What's Sonny Perdue's legacy? When it's all said and done, what's Sonny Perdue going to be remembered for doing for this country and for your fellow man?
Well, that's kind of an unfair question. Really, history will determine my legacy. I've never been too concerned about the legacy. I think biblically, as a believer, I believe you do the job that God calls you to do, and the history books will write whatever it is. So I think I've been blessed, so blessed in this country, in this state, in this community, to grow up with unconditional loving parents on a farm, and from my little bird dogs and horses and those kind of things to a great life as University of Georgia veterinarian, and then a captain in the Air Force, state senator, and then governor, and now Secretary of Agriculture. But honestly, nothing surpasses husband and grandfather and father. You noticed I put grandfather first.
Huge thanks to Secretary Perdue for spending time with us. Well, time for our final break. Up next, why the International Horse Park in Rockdale County was set ablaze.
Genetics and genomic testing are changing the way dairy farmers do business. Using genomic data to make better decisions is helping dairy producers leap forward with improving their cattle. And that's exciting, says Katie Martin with Zoetis.
The focus is creating that bulletproof cow. So that cow that is trouble-free, does not get sick, and it is very productive and very fertile. Ultimately, that cow that is very profitable for dairy producers.
One area where genomic testing is making great strides is in dairy wellness with wellness traits. With genomic testing, a dairyman can know early in a calf's life how profitable that animal will be later on. Martin says the difference in herds that are using genomic testing is significant.
I overwhelmingly see it across many dairy farms where we have a healthier herd, we have a more fertile herd, we're using less antibiotics, and we have cows producing a higher quantity of fat and protein.
The Dairy Wellness Profit Index is a comprehensive one-stop shop ranking index from the Clarified Plus genomic test from Zoetis that helps producers breed toward improved wellness and overall profitability.
The Dairy Wellness Profit Index is a combination of production, health, and fertility. So we want those cows to produce a high number of pounds of fat, pounds of protein. We want those cows to be fertile. We also don't want those cows to have health events throughout their career. We want them to be healthy and very productive.
Genomic testing allows dairy farmers to create a strategic plan to expedite herd improvement. Martin says the plan is threefold.
It's managing those inventories and making sure we're producing the right number of heifers. It is, creating the right number of heifers from the right genetics, choosing who our future could be or should be based on that genomic profile, and then also creating new revenue streams based on those other decisions.
When first getting started with genomics, Martin says the results can be surprising. There's often a wide range in genetic predictions from top to bottom.
And what that range means is there's a range in profitability. And there are calves born today that are going to be very, very profitable throughout their lifetime. And knowing that early and having the opportunity to feel confident about that information is really powerful.
To learn more about Clarified Plus and genomic testing options, visit HolsteinUSA.com. For Holstein Association USA, I'm Miles Ramsey.
Finally this week, after 2 years of planning and many obstacles, including a pandemic and uncooperative weather conditions, the International Horse Park in Rockdale County was set ablaze. But this was a good fire and much needed. A historic collaboration between park officials, the City of Conyers, and the Georgia Forestry Commission. Best of all, the Monitor was given a front row hot seat.
This is all new. You know, I know how important prescribed burns are, and this has never happened here before, so obviously, you know, it was something that was needed. Dawn on our staff has been working tirelessly with the folks from the Georgia Forestry Commission, worked on like a 10-year plan, and this was an important part of that 10-year plan, and we just feel like it's going to benefit our nature center so much and be very helpful for the people that utilize our trails and helpful for the wildlife that lives here, and so we're just thrilled about this opportunity.
We want to start in that northeast corner, secure that line first, and then work our way back this way.
This really is indeed a very special event because it's a unique opportunity to be able to do a prescribed fire in North Georgia, this close to an urban area, this close to Atlanta, and on public property, so that the public can see the before and after and really see the benefits of prescribed fire on the landscape.
It's just a great thing because there's not a lot of burning that goes on this close to Atlanta. And so that's the reason why a lot more planning had to go into it. So we're hoping that people understand that just because you live in a urbanized area, a lot of houses, highways, if you've got wooded areas, you can burn it. Now, it takes more planning, and you may not hit the weather that you need this year, so you may have to put it off a year. But with proper planning, you can execute a burn in locations like that.
This is important to us because we really want to maintain what's natural, the natural habitat for the wildlife that's here at the Nature Center and within the 1,400 acres of the horse park. So we want to be a part of that and make sure we're doing the right thing for that habitat to be preserved for years down the road.
Yeah, awesome time covering that. Really neat to see, too, how they strategically get the fire and smoke to go all in one direction. And speaking of which, as always, you guys are awesome for tuning in.
Well, ditto what he said. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Farm Monitor. Have a great week.